Buhay, kapisanan, kasaysayan, Pilipinas. Ako po si Xiao Chu, isang public historian. Welcome to Vibal Group, Kasaysayan, Kaysaya. Ayan, mga kaibigan. Alam nyo, kung papansin nyo, meron ho akong suot na pinkian shirt, Emilio Jacinto. Pareho kami ng hair ngayon. Kita nyo naman, no? Parehong-pareho kami ng hair. Joke lang. Ako po yung nagsalita about Emilio Jacinto, kaya ako na late. So, pasensya na po kayo. I am late in my own show, but I hope it's flexible naman. But we will try to avoid such cases. But sometimes it's unavoidable. So, thank you very much to Vibal Group. Siyempre, nandiyan si Jessa ba? Tama, Jessa, no? Nandito siya. Kasama natin ngayon, no? Kumbaga, inaantabayanan tayo dito sa broadcast. Thank you very much, Jessa. Pomar. So, salamat po. Of course, Gaspar Vibal, Christine Mandigma, Rio Brihino Lim, at sa lahat pa ng ating mga kasamahan dito sa Kasaysayan Kaysaya. No? Salamat. Alright, puntahan muna natin yung yung ngayon kasi maraming mga pangyayari sa kasaysayan, naging international shrine ang Antipolo, cathedral. Ito yung Cathedral ng Immaculate Conception, na nandun yung Birhen ng Antipolo, yung Nuestra Señora de la Virgen de la Paz y Buen Viaje. No? Tapos, kahapon naman, inelevate na yung Quiapo Church as national shrine. No? Actually, may decree na yan, pero yung celebration ay nangyari kahapon. I think it's part of the talagang itinaon nila sa meeting ng mga bishops dito sa Manila. Kaya lahat ng mga obispo nandyan. At ako ay inanyayahan naman ni Father John Sescon at ng parish ng Quiapo Church sa pagdiriwang na ito ng elevation natin as Quiapo Church as National Shrine. So maraming salamat po doon sa invitation na yun at nasaksihan natin yung kasaysayan na yan. Okay, so ito ba ang Hindi ito yung hindi ito yung una nating pagkikita ng taon. Ito ay nagkita tayo last time, noong 16. Ayan. Pero ngayon, ang ating topic ngayon, mga kaibigan, ang ating paksa ay tungkol sa isang pagdiriwang. Kasi recently, ito pa yung recent pala na pinagdiwang natin, yung 125th year ng unang republika sa Malolos, Bulacan. No? Teka, tingnan muna natin. So, yung mga commemorations, mamaya babalik tayo dyan. Tingnan muna natin yung mga una nating mga pagbati na nandito. No? Las Piñas Historian, magandang gabi Professor Xiao at Ma'am Felice, yung ating guest, paniguradong matatakam at mabubusog ako nito. Nelia Barrias, wala na po tayong e-certificate. May e-certificate pa ba tayo, Jessa? No? Hermana de la Cruz is watching. Wow, 68 viewers po tayo ngayon. Ang ating pong paksa ay tungkol sa isang commemoration. So, 125th year of independence and nationhood. Kasama na ho ang 125th year ng Malolos Republic, Republika Filipina, the first constitutional democratic republic in Asia, na ginunita natin itong Enero 23. So, 125 years ago, that said, 100 years ng Filipino nationhood, ito po ay pinagdiwang natin sa pamamagitan ng tinatawag na the Philippine Centennial. So, pagka may mga katawag dyan milestone events, mga Jubilee, Golden Jubilee, Silver Jubilee, Diamond Jubilee, tapos may mga centenary ka, may 100 years centenary, may sesquicentennial, 150, may quadricentennial, 400 years, may quincentennial, 500 years. So, itong quincentennial na ni Lapu-Lapu, pinagdiwang natin noong 2021, ang dami rin nagka-interest sa kasaysayan at ang daming na-produce sa kasaysayan. Now, babalik tayo sa taong 1998. Noong 1998 po, ako po ay second year high school. No? Kasi, tama, no? Hindi, first year high school. Tama, first year high school pa lang ako noong 1998. Tama ba? Kasi batch 1997 ako eh. Tama, batch 1997 ako. So nung nag-June 19, tama, second year high school ako. Second year high school ako. Nang panoorin ko yung nangyari sa Maynila noong June 12, 1998. 100 years ago, no? So, may sinulat na ako dyan sa Manila Times tungkol sa aking Centennial experience watching on television. Eh, ngayon naman kausapin natin yung isang tao na siya isa sa mga nagpasimula ng ideya para i-celebrate ito. Puntahan natin mamaya yan. Ipapakilala natin siya mamaya. Pero tayo muna ay magkaroon ng commercial break. Alright? Sige po.
Bertong kunat! Daryong Dagol! Ano tong balitang pinagkakalat mo dito sa baluarte ko, ha?
Anong balita?
Huwag ka na magmaang-maangan pa!
Ayun ba? Ha? Hindi ba totoo naman? Nasagi ang lunas sa COVID. Alam mo ba kung nasaan naman kang mayaw? Nasa naga talaga yun. At higit sa lahat, fake news talaga yung ads sa Revolution.
Ungas ka ba? Ano ba pinagsasabi mo? Saan mo pinagkukuha yan?
Huh, syempre, nag-research ako, no? Sa Tuktuk University. Palibasa kasi at umugot ka na at laos, kaya hindi mo alam yun. Ano, ha?
Lord naman! Magpaulan ka naman ng katalinuhan!
Reliable source of information, sari-saring content na isinulat ng mga eksperto, mga librong di kalidad na abot hanggang sa doomsday, tumawag ka lang sa akin. By the way, hindi ako si Lord. Ako si Vibal.
O pre, tingnan mo to. Di ba sabi ko sa'yo totoo ang EDSA Revolution?
Oo nga, no? O tapos ito, wala pala talaga sa Naga ang bulkang mayon.
Sabi ko sa'yo eh.
Makasaysayang gabi po muli sa ating lahat. Ngayon kasama naman po natin, cultural worker. I think that's the greatest thing na gusto niyang matawag siya. She's so proud of it. No? Of course, historian and book author, Felice Prudente Santa Maria. Makasaysayang gabi, ma'am.
Magandang gabi po.
It's a huge honor kasi syempre, hindi naman natin lagi nakakausap si Ma'am Felice, although she's very generous to the young scholars now, to the young cultural workers. And remember, she wrote the manual for cultural workers. No? So, na available yan sa Anvil. But I would like to talk about the Philippine Centennial, for which she has a lot of involvement. But before that, no, kasi sa aming show, dito sa Kasaysayang Kaysaya, we want to get a little bit more about, you, because there's some people who might not be aware of what you do. Pero we want to ask you the question na, and sorry kung mabigla kayo dito kasi hindi siya related sa Centennial, but just on the top of your mind, what is your very first memory as a kid?
Oh my God. My first memory as a kid is probably being carried by my grandfather.
Wow.
Parang I think that's what I remember. Karga-karga ako ng aking lolo.
And yung grandfather nyo, ito yung tatay ng tatay nyo?
No. Ito yung tatay ng aking nanay.
Wow. So parang
Abogado siya. Ha?
Yun. Ang ina-analyze namin kasi dyan ay the first memory pala, according to some people, in a way, kapag nag-look back ka, will in a way make you have a peek on what eventually that person would become. So, I think yung pagiging fatherly ng grandfather nyo is one thing. Pero he was a lawyer. siguro
Yes.
meron ding something doon.
Ano?
Doon sa pagiging lawyer niya, baka nakapekto din doon sa inyo bilang isang tao.
Well, I don't know about that, pero while it's true yung first memory, oo nga, nabigla ako, is yung karga-karga ako ng lolo ko. I was raised by my grandparents, kaya medyo ano tayo conservative yung iba nating mga customs. Kasi
Right.
talagang laki tayo sa mga lolo at lola.
Right.
Yung hindi lang yung lolo na yan, kung hindi yung first cousin niya, na lolo ko din, married to the sister of my lola. Ano yan two cousins married two sisters.
Oh, yes. Wow.
So very close kami. Parang I would live in both houses. Parang ganyan, no? So both of them were active. My maternal grandfather was active in World War II, and he was incarcerated. He almost died in Fort Santiago, were it not for a Japanese soldier. Nandyan na yung lolo ko dyan sa tubig sa may Fort Santiago. Yung they wait for the tide to rise. Tapos lahat sila, they will die, no? So nandyan na siya sa baba. No? Nandyan na siya. And then,
I witness ang grandfather niyo pala noon na tumataas yung tide
Hindi,
doon sa dungeon.
Hindi, ang nangyari, nandyan siya kasi papatayin na nga siya. With all of them, madami sila siya. Tapos, biglang merong medyo ranking na Japanese officer na lumapit dyan sa, when you go to Fort Santiago, di ba, it's like metal, what do you call that? Parang you look down through the metal
Right,
thing.
right.
So there was this officer, and then he said that he was looking for Garcia-san. So, kumalat, hinahanap siya, tapos punta naman si Garcia-san, malapit dyan sa grating, and then sabi nung Japanese in English, sabi niya, Garcia-san, don't you remember me? We were classmates in the United States. We were even living together in the YMCA. Kasi students sila eh.
Yes.
And then sabi niya, I'm a Christian. I cannot kill you this way. I cannot. So sabi niya, I cannot release you. Pero ang gagawin ko, palilipat kita to Muntinlupa. So Lolo was moved to Muntinlupa. And he was with that group. Yung meron yan, yung malaking Great Escape from Muntinlupa. Kasama siya dyan. And so he was able to escape. He found his way back to Manila, and he hid. You know, he hid. So that was one lolo. So shall I put it? These are people who have substance, no,
Right.
and commitment. And his wife, my maternal grandmother, she was one of the early graduates of the School of Nursing sa PGH, sa UP, no? Sa may PGH.
UPPGH.
And she majored in nutrition. So, ano din siya yung mga, that's it, they're medyo matatag na tao. And then, the other lolo and lola, kasi para I have to talk about two lolos and two lolas. Parang ganyan eh. Cannot just be one lolo and one lola. The other one naman, doktor. And he was a civic, a very civic spirited person. He was among the charter members of the first, what do they call it, Philippine Science Academy or something in the 30s. Something dyan. So, ano siya both of them were very civic-oriented, very church-oriented, both of them. And my grandmother the other grandmother, ano naman yan, all she wanted to do was have a very beautiful house, smoothly run house. She had no intentions of working, and she liked to play the piano. So parang the arts, the sciences, having opinions, having commitment,
Right.
that's really part of the family. So yung karga-karga na yan, siguro that gives a sense of assurance.
Right.
Diba? Parang that's assurance when you're still small that everything will be all right. We're here, and even if life can be very difficult, very challenging, don't worry. I think that might have been part of it. Iba yung pag you're lucky and your childhood is full of caring and kindness. Swerte kung ganyan, and I was lucky, Xiao, that was my childhood.
Yun. Well, hindi ko na ipapasok kasi father niyo rin si great PUP President Felice Prudente, di ba? But hahaba pa tayo. But ang next question ko in relation to your upbringing is, when did you, what were the factors that made you decide you want to be a cultural worker, a writer, or di ba, a historian, and all of these things?
Alam mo, when you're in college and you're 15 years old, di ba? Parang hindi mo alam talaga ano magiging degree course mo na yan, no? And
Right.
so I took. There was no mass comm when I was enrolled. Wala pa yan. So I took broadcasting under yung speech and drama program sa Diliman. So performing, di ba? Parang performing.
Right.
And then the moda at the time was anthro. So I had many subjects in anthro, and I almost shifted, except madami na yung major courses ko sa broadcasting. So not a good idea to shift midway, no? Tapos lang, just finish this.
Pala kayo. Broadcasting pala kayo.
Oo. I worked in broadcasting as a student.
Wow.
There was a well-established parang radio program siya, midnight hanggang 5 o'clock. And so there was this lady named Jo San Diego. She was very famous, and that was her program. I don't know, maybe 10 years, mga ganyan. I was a student, I was listening to her. Kaya kilala talaga siya talaga. Then she left for the States, and they couldn't find a replacement kasi walang may gusto yung midnight hanggang 5 o'clock. Medyo mahirap yan yung shift.
Right.
I did my, what do you call that? Yung parang on-the-job training. Parang ganon, no?
Right.
At
Intern kayo.
Parang ganyan. And then the station manager said, baka you want to take this program. Tapos, I mean, don't worry, the car will pick you up, the car will bring you wherever you want to go. Yung parang you'll be very safe. So, sabi ko, why not? No, give it a try. So yan, sinubukan na 2 years yan. 2 years. Plus another maybe year or 2 years with ABS-CBN, as we were the first promo girl batch in ABS. They had one of their producers, parang talent scout, anyway, they had him go to UP, and he was Maning Rivera. He had to select a few people there to promote ABS-CBN. So I'm old enough to remember that all of a sudden I was told, when you come tomorrow morning, please wear colorful clothes because we're going to go on color. Going to go color tomorrow.
Wow.
Oo. So I even remember what I wore. I went to Rustan's, bought an outfit that was so colorful, and it's not my personality, but they wanted
Yeah.
color. So, yun. Marami ako kung sa ganyan. So, parang, ano ako yung parang I don't know what to do with myself. Parang ganyan. Enjoy lang ako. Tapos, after I got married, by then I went to advertising. I didn't like broadcasting. Sabi ko, siguro advertising. Pasok ko sa advertising, I got married. Sabi ko, sandali lang. Hindi pwede ito yung mga coming home at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Diba? Not if you're in a kind of conservative family, diba? Hindi pwede.
Yeah.
So, di ko alam talaga siya kung anong gagawin. And para mga confluences, I met Hilda Cordero Fernando. And she said, okay, we give you a chance. Eggy Apostol and I will give you a chance. You write. If Eggy likes it, then you keep writing for Eggy. And then I have Filipino Heritage. If Charlie Quirino likes it, Alfredo Roses likes what you give, or do you write for both? You write for Eggy, popular women's material, then you write for Filipino Heritage, popular history material. Yan, yan ang pasok ng history.
Galing. So, na-enjoy nyo na. And then, of course, after a few years, eto na nga, you will be involved with this very big project called the Philippine Centennial. No? Ito na nga, 100 years of Philippine independence. So, ang una ko siguro tanong, it's a compound question. How did that Philippine Centennial, in your perspective, start? Yung the wanting to celebrate, and how did you get involved with it?
Okay, I'm not lifting my bench, but you're just asking for the historical truth.
Please do lift your bench.
So if you go through my, at the time I was writing for Philippine Star. I think I was writing for Philippine Star on the op-ed page. And
Your column is Pahiyas, if I'm not
yes,
mistaken.
that was the Pahiyas column. Oh, that was the Pahiyas time already, no? Because I think that was the third column or whatever. Anyway, it was Pahiyas. And I realized that we were going to have a cluster of patriotic centennials coming up. And my worry was, how are they going to be celebrated? It didn't look like anybody was interested in it.
Right.
This might have been maybe 1991 or maybe 1991 or early 1992, because the first centennial would be July 1992,
Katipunan.
yung Katipunan, di ba?
Exactly.
So, nag-aalala ako talaga siya. Sabi ko, these things are important. Because I had already had a little bit of experience with the French bicentennial. I helped the French with some of the programs here. So sabi ko, alam mo, this is a very serious thing. You just don't have a couple of celebrations. You plan, and you plan for all of them.
Exactly.
Kailangan may master plan yan, no? So, anyway, I was trying to figure it out, and one of my dear friends, a family friend, was the late Nelson Navarro.
Yes.
Nelson was writing, I think, for Malaya, maybe for Malaya. And so I invited Nelson for lunch. He was the first person I contacted. I said, hey, Nelson, you might be interested, these centennials are coming up. Maybe we can team up and get other columnists to start writing about these coming centennials, what they might mean, what kinds of activities we should have. I was at Club. We were at Club Filipino. And he wasn't interested. I mean, he told me point blank. He said, Felice, that's not my interest. I don't think I want to get involved in that. He said, maybe when the events are there, I might comment. But he said, no, I don't want to get involved. So I said, oh, sige, you're not the person. That's all right. We'll find somebody else. We'll figure it out. And then across the room, so like midway across the room, I saw my uncle, the national scientist, Pepe Encarnacion.
Okay.
Uncle Pepe. So, of course, sabi ko, Mami, makita ko ni Uncle Pepe, hindi ako nag-greet. So, I went down and I gave him a big hug. And his companion at the time was also a friend. I was on the first, my husband and I were on a first name basis with my uncle's companion, who just happened to be Cesar Virata. Okay. So my uncle goes, oh, what are you doing here? Because I'm having lunch with Nelson, trying to convince him, about this Centennial. So I said, Uncle Pepe, this has to be taken seriously. So ito naman si Cesar, oh, Felice, count me in. And then my uncle, why? What is that all about? Ano ba na naman yan? No? And Cesar said, no, kasama dyan yung proclamation of Philippine independence. Sabi niya,
Yes.
no. And he said, nobody. He said, Felice, you're the first person I've come across who's interested in it. And he said, what are you going to do? And I said, Cesar, I really don't know. Kaya nga ako nag-imbita kay Nelson, but don't worry. I will find a way. Sabi ko, I will find a way because we cannot let this opportunity pass. So sabi niya, count me in. So then, yung confluence, ang nangyari siya is, I went to a very close friend of mine who happened to be the executive director of the Philippine Advertising Foundation. She's still alive. She's still alive. She's a little fragile, but she's still alive. Her name is Linda Gamboa. And the Advertising Foundation, the reason I went to Linda was because Advertising Foundation had a values, what do you call it, like a values education or values formation advertising. They've been doing it for, maybe a year and a half or something. And then at the same time, one of their members, of course, was San Miguel Beer. And San Miguel had just had their own Centennial.
100 years of San Miguel, yes.
Right. Tapos, meron sila yung napakagandang parang mini video. At
Yung kay
sabi
Fernando
ko,
Po Jr.
Exactly.
Napakaganda, henangal siya doon.
Tapos, di ba, the flag fell. Tapos, dyan siya sa horse. Then he picks up the flag. FPJ fan tayo. Sabi ko, that's the kind of visualization. That's the kind of ads, the kind of spirit that we need for our Centennial. So, tapos
Wait
yung...
lang, Mama. First of all, I would like to clarify to the audience. Cesar Virata, for those who do not know him, a former Prime Minister of the Philippines, is a grandson of Baldomero Aguinaldo, who is the cousin of Emilio Aguinaldo. They were the front runner of the Magdalo. And mahalaga itong pinupoint out ni Ma'am Felice kasi the broadcasting yun yung ads ng broadcasting, yung ad ni Fernando Po Jr., which is in YouTube. You can watch it. No? At ako, naalala namin yun nung bata kami. Ang music pa yung Joselinang Baliwag, kundi man de 1800. Diba? And may kinalaman pala yung broadcasting din dun sa parang, ito yung peg natin na dapat ma-feel ng mga tao because we have to market our history in a way, di ba?
Yun, exactly siya. So, pagpunta ko kay Lynn, at saka, by the way, the people in San Miguel in charge of the advertising, their ad agency, and the people in San Miguel, I had friends, no, at the time, among them. So, sabi ko, Linda, hindi kaya pwede yung we talk to your major advertisers and we begin with them. Somehow we ask them to start drumming up a sense of nationalism, a sense of bringing in the past somehow in their different advertisements. No? Because sabi ko, pwede. And then sabi ni Linda, nako, alam mo, ang swerte mo. ang ating president ngayon, president and chairman of the Advertising Foundation is your friend. Sabi ko, bakit sino? Sabi niya, Louis Morales. Now, Louis Morales at one point, let me see, kasi, you know, they changed agencies, but at one point, Louis was with Philippine Advertising Counselors, PAC, which was a big agency at the time. And I met him there when I was doing a little bit of advertising work. And we became very good friends. So sabi ni Linda, alam mo, this is the kind of project that Louis will like. So sabi niya, let's meet with Louis and see what he says. So then sabi ni Louis, alam mo, we better, my sense of it, sabi niya, is why don't we form first a private foundation? And then from the private foundation, sabi niya, Felice, you can invite your friends, and then Linda and I will invite the top advertising spenders. Sabi niya. Kasi that's what we are going to need. Sabi ko, yeah. We need to have this in place, no? So in the meantime, 1992, somewhere in that 1992, the NCCA legislation was passed. I don't remember the month. And so the executive director was Carmen Padilla, who's still around, and you can interview Carmen Menchu. And I said, and then I got somehow elected to head the, what do you call it? The section Xiao, the one for
Cultural Heritage?
Yeah, cultural heritage.
The National Committee on Cultural Heritage.
Well, but this was NCCA pa. So NCCA. And then, sabi ko, Menchu, meron darating ito, cluster. Kailangan ang NCCA nasa forefront. Kasi kultura ito eh. Saka meron tayong history committee. Lahat ng committees na kailangan nandyan. And then we had DepEd and we had tourism. Kasi kailangan yung tourism din in step, di ba? Whether domestic or international. Kailangan lahat ito in step. So sabi ni Menchu, sige, count me in. So the core became Louis Morales, Linda Gamboa, Menchu, myself, and one more who I cannot remember. Kasi we needed to be 5. We had to be 5 to pay the amount and then create the foundation.
Yes.
I'm sure it's all in those records. So anyway, the foundation was formed. And we hosted the first event. And we had like the presidents of the major banks, the gas companies, things like that, no? Food companies. And in walked Cesar Virata. So sabi ni Cesar, he saw me, Felice, is this what you mean? I said, well, it's a good start, isn't it? So sabi niya, wow, yes, this is a good start. So that was the core. And the people in private sector were really quite enthusiastic, especially, what is his name? He was the head of Caltex. It will come. He was amazing. Anyway, at the same time, so this is all simultaneous, no? The presidential election is ongoing, and we don't know who the president is going to be, correct? In the meantime, at NCCA, Menchu and I hold that thought, huh? We don't know who the president is going to be. So in the meantime, Menchu says, Felice, you better make a working paper already. Kasi mahirap na ito eh, make a working paper. So I said, okay, I'll make a working paper based on NCCA, where the key entry points are going to be places where the universities or educational institutions are clustered and where the historical sites are clustered. And if they all come together, all the better. So I said, that's how we will sort of make our master plan. Although knowing that once we get, because what we wanted was to get a presidential commission created. Once the presidential commission is in place, the political framework is going to lead and not the educational and cultural framework. But at least in place tayo. And what was very important about the cultural framework was that we knew that, I mean, yung Centennial, sandali lang yan, matatapos na rin. So what would be the legacies? So syempre, right immediately, gusto namin the historical trail, the major historical sites, lahat na connected to that cluster of events, ma-upgrade. Kasi what you see now is a very big upgrade from what it was in 1990.
That's true.
Hindi ganito. Our young people are very fortunate. Hindi ganito noon. Tapos, I had a personal advocacy which I wrote about in my column, and I said, alam mo, one of the best legacies this can have, this Centennial, is to once and for all fix the National Museum. Because the National Museum has no title to any property. It's
they're squatting in the Senate.
Yeah.
Diba?
Or the other way around, because actually the building that what is now, I mean, for your viewers, the ones where you go to the National Museum and that wonderful gallery of art, that's the legislative building. But that originally was really for a museum and library. And then it got repurposed for the legislature. But anyway, I was such an advocate for that a friend of mine became the dean of the College of Architecture at UP. And over a cup of coffee, we started to write down topics for research, whether undergrad or masteral programs. What topics needed to be addressed. And one of those that I inserted was, how do we tackle the National Museum in Manila? It cannot be like that. I said it. And I said, it's not just one building. They can't just have one building. Look at the functions. Kulang kung isang building lang. Parang they need a cluster of buildings as well.
I can tell the audience what it was in 1995 because I visited. 1995 yan. I was grade 5. Just imagine. Even the corridors had this place. Sobrang maximalist, hindi minimalist, maximalist. Because wala ngang space. And it's so hard to understand anything because it's a hodgepodge of things. Walang tema. So, and that's the whole National Museum already in one building. So, yun ang kailangang maintindihan nyo. So, may manunggol dyan, and then may mami, as in totoong mami. Ngayon kasi lahat ng mami binalik na sa Ifugao, sa Kalinga, tsaka sa Cordillera. But everything else is there, and it's in the corridors din. Wala talagang display. Ma-displayan. Sobrang kulang, kahit laki-laki na nung espasyo. And the Senate Hall was at the 4th floor. No, may little door doon that opens and it's already the Senate. So you can't even use that space for the museum because may mga senador pa doon. So yun ang National Museum noong 1995 before all of these things happened. Anyway, let's go back to 1992.
So anyway, and then Louis Morales said, Felice, how would the presidential commission? He said, okay, you've got this sort of like an NCCA draft of a working paper. How does the government come in? And I said, well, I studied how they did it in France and how they did it in the United States, where the bicentennials of both countries, and they had a bicentennial of the Constitution. The American Constitution also had its own celebration. So I studied that also. And so what they did was the head of the American Bicentennial Commission was a former vice president, or a former vice president. And for the constitutional celebration, it was a former Supreme Court justice. I forgot who it was in in France. But anyway, we had all of this, all of these attachments because we weren't sure, how were we going to strategize? How were we going to proceed? We did not want it to be a private sector-led celebration because this is to honor precisely the government.
Yes, exactly. The nation state.
Exactly. It's the nation state, the fact that we have a government, the fact that we have a constitution,
Right.
and the fact that we have all these expressions of this, freedoms of that, this and that, and all of them with governmental protection.
That's
Okay.
true.
So it cannot be private sector led. I had even been approached by a governor, and he said, Felice, when you need to do that? He said, we'll just get the governors of the eight provinces that started this. Kami na lang, sabi niya, kayang-kaya namin ito. We can turn this into a big national event. And I told him very politely, sabi ko, I'm really sorry, but even if you did that, it doesn't make the statement on behalf of government, nationalism, all of this is important. Because we need to go above the LGU. We need for people to respect, honor, and sustain a good government.
Just imagine, if natuloy yung ganong proposal nila na LGUs of the 8 provinces, it's again a Luzon-centric celebration. It's not inclusive. Walang Mindanao. Di wala na naman.
Ayun na nga. So I had to, but I said, sana naman po, pag naayos na ito, kayo at yung iba ninyong kaibigan na gobernador, sumali na rin po kayo dito because we're gonna read the eight Luzon provinces to really come together and show their strength.
Right.
So anyway, so we had a master plan already, and it went all the way to the January, is it 23rd of
Yes,
1999 for the Constitution, no?
Mhm.
And then we said, okay, we have to present this to the incoming president, whoever be the incoming president.
Right.
And again, luck was on our side. Fidel Ramos was elected. And who was the head of FBR's political campaign advertising? Louis Morales.
Yung na-confluence nga.
So anyway, once that was set up, and then Doy Laurel was willing to take on the lead. And I know Doy called me up and said, Felice, explain to me what this is really all about. I said, Doy, it's really just to bring some attention to the importance of government. And this is perfect after people power. But like when you look at the sequencing of events, kailangan talaga gamitin na natin ito. And
Sige pa, continue.
No, the other project that we had put into the draft was flag awareness.
Ayan, you're very much an advocate of that because in fact, yung nakita kong column nyo is a flag for every home. This is Sunday, May 22 of 1994. Yan. Sabi nyo, hanging out a flag is a ritual. Just like hanging out a parol at Christmas. If every Filipino hangs out a flag every May 28 and June 12, then the country is united in that externalization of being Filipino. Now, this is now being done. If you are an advocate of this pala. Oh.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Meron lang akong i-address. Because there's a criticism about the Philippine Centennial by some historians, and authors, that it parang sabang glorification of the nation state. Apparently it's true. It's
Yes.
a glorification of the nation state, and
Yes.
I think there's nothing wrong with it. Ano? Kung may mga people's commemoration that will come, and came actually, a lot of sectors, no, not just the pro-state faction, but also yung mga medyo critical, yung mga progressive groups, they were actually also celebrating. And celebrating, critiquing, and all of that is part of it.
Correct.
Pero maganda yung sinabi nyo na the mere fact that we have a government, the mere fact that we have an independent country, we have a constitution, we have, the democratic space and human rights. And this is after People Power Revolution, which is our greatest moment in contemporary time, but thwarted by all this political turmoil, coup d'etat, the crisis of the energy crisis and all of that.
Exactly.
Na sa totoo lang, I am doing my research here dun sa executive order ni Ramos. Apparently, there was already an administrative order under Korea 223 dated 13 June
Yes.
1991 creating the Committee for the Preparation for the National Centennial.
That's
Composed
correct.
of representatives of the Presidential Commission, wala pang NCCA, Presidential Commission for Culture and the Arts, and 5 representatives from the Philippine Centennial Foundation Inc. Kayo yun.
Kami
Diba?
yan.
But I think
Ayun, that's it. That's the one. Because I couldn't figure out dates. So when we started, PCCA pa siya. PCCA, hindi pa siya
Yeah.
NCCA.
yeah.
Tama.
But I think si Cory Aquino was just so beset with problems because with the day she signed this, 13 June 1991, Mount Pinatubo just erupted.
Yes.
Diba 12 June yun eh. So, I mean, diba? So, now of course, Ramos has now the reins of power, and Ramos is, of course, as we know, is very, shall we say, conscious of history.
Yes.
Diba? Conscious of history. So, how did it happen after that? No? Nung Ramos went to become president?
Well, you'll have to look at the documents because I don't remember everybody's name. But of course, what the president did was he organized an office. Number one, he organized an office, and Luis Morales was willing to head the Centennial Commission's office. I think that was as a maybe executive director or something. And then we did want representation from different sectors. So
Right.
you will notice that there is representation. And I think one of the most important sectors as far as I am concerned, was that we were able to get broadcasting and communications into the commission. If you look at the names of the commissioners, the commissioners include people like Flora Angel Braid. Now, by that time, remember, Flora Angel Braid was one of the 48 persons selected to draft the new constitution after People Power.
Yeah.
And so she was charged with trying to look into communications, to have the foresight to look into communications as the freedom of expression. Okay. And then how does that factor into the law and
This is
communications?
Flora Angel Braid ba?
Huh?
What's her name?
Flor Angel Rosario Braid. She has a column
Flora Angel
in
Braid.
Bulletin.
Okay.
She has a column in Bulletin. You can
Yes,
call
yes.
her, and you call her. By that, you can contact Flor. By that time, Asian Institute of Journalism had already been formed. Correct. I'm not sure if it was Asian Institute of Journalism and Communications already, or if it was just Asian Institute of Journalism. So she brought into the commission a certain type of foresight and a certain type of viewpoint. Okay, And then we included behavioral scientists. If you take a look at the activities, because we decided that it was crucial, that we would all be working from the same booklet, a guidebook. I hope you can find it, because the guidebook includes the values, character building values that the Centennial was supposed to try and inspire. And then for every site, there we connected a site with a story, and the story with character building values that site was supposed to promote more than the other values, you know. So there was some kind of planning that went into it. And
What I saw here is this manual, I think, which was distributed.
There's another one.
Mm.
There's another one that's white. It's all white, and then it just says handbook.
It's probably a more elaborate kasi parang summarized na to eh. It's just a booklet.
So the other one, the other handbook, that was made by having conferences, like conferences of just behavioral scientists, educators, historians, communicators, and then trying to find common ground. And the character building values were very important to all of us, if you look at them. And the program was bilingual. We had them bilingual because we knew that we were going to be communicating in the national language as well as in English. So we had that. I think that being able to contribute some amount of rationalized framework and a rationalized working paper for a nationwide celebration, and incorporating immediate goals, short-term goals, and long-term legacies.
Right.
So to me, that was important. And I think if there were criticisms, there were criticisms, even we ourselves were criticizing ourselves.
Yes.
You
That's
have
a
to
good thing.
understand that. When you get people, if you look at the names of the commissioners are the first to do the critiques.
Right.
We critique ourselves.
Right.
Because we want to try and stop anything from going off, anything getting derailed.
That's true. Right.
So we have to critique. Okay, so we are critiquing, and of course, what was hard was the history that we were promoting at the time.
Right.
Was the history that was recognized at the time.
That's true.
So now there are new findings, new conclusions. If the spelling of the names of places, the dates, the people, the heroes and heroines, we've added, now we know more. After all, that was 20 plus years ago.
I'll tell you something, kasi I actually wrote a presentation for the local historical committees network, addressing the bank of criticism. I'll show you the bank of criticism. It's okay. This is academic. Hindi natin siya tinitira, because
tignan na nga natin. Oo.
Yung book ni Bankoff is really very good because talaga nag-pour sila ng data, tsaka si Kathleen Weekly. Pero meron akong parang hindi ako agree masyado doon sa conclusion. So I'll saan ba tong Centennial? Teka lang this is interesting.
Sige nga. When was it written?
It
What
was
you're
written
showing me.
parang kasi naging paper muna ito, and then LaSalle published it in 2002. So a few years.
How many years later?
Okay, so in one of the ito yung I'll show you the and then again academic to, and may point siya because it's a well-written history of the Centennial based on the discourse at that time, celebrating the Centennial of Independence. It says here, according to data, the Centennial awareness was greatest in Metro Manila, 97%, and Luzon 84%, but much lower in the Visayas 68% and Mindanao 63%. The differences were even more striking among certain sectors of the population. According to the April 1998 survey, 93% of persons classified as belonging to ABC class demographic profiles were conscious of the Centennial, as compared to only 63% for those with an E-class profile. And, sabi niya, awareness declined rapidly at the local level. Only 35% of those in the Visayas and 23% in Metro Manila were conscious of actual events being staged in their own neighborhoods.
Yes.
Similar low levels of awareness were found among school children whose consciousness of citizenship still remained at only 49% in 1998. Despite the incorporation of Centennial topics emphasizing civic culture, values, geography, and history into the educational curricula since 1996. But I answered this, because I showed them a lot of the things, the discourse that happened because of it, all the films, all the things that happened, all the children's books, all the conferences, which I believe resulted eventually to what you're talking about now, that we now know better.
Yes.
This Centennial thing facilitated
Yes.
yung opening up of our minds to new perspectives in how we look at history. Number one, not Luzon-centric. In fact, the Philippine Centennial, despite of it focusing on 1896 to 1898, actually led the way na ma-reinterpret natin ito as a celebration for the struggle of freedom from Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao.
Yes.
Diba?
Totoo
And
yan.
eventually what will happen is that we will now have works about heroes in Luzon, heroes in Visayas,
The
heroes in
Visayas.
Mindanao, and women heroes.
Yes.
And
Tama yan.
ito pa, we have Filipino perspective before. But in the Centennial, doon gumiit yung Filipino perspective in the national language as represented by people like Salazar,
Yes.
and the bagong Kasaysayang group. So, with all of those things na nakita nyo, yung byproduct na yun, pag nakita nyo, that affected in the long term, up to today, people like myself watch the Centennial on television and is resolved na as long as I live, we're going to make history right. Hindi
Exactly.
mo yan maka-quantify. You cannot quantify that. People like Ian Alfonso, who watched the Centennial, di ba? And vowed to the end of his life that he's going to make it right as much as we can.
Siya, wala naman tayo noon mga cellphone.
Exactly, yeah, that's
You
true.
know,
Isa pa yan.
you have to understand that the communications before was not the same as now. And that's part of when I saw the statistics, I kept nodding in agreement. Because it was very difficult in those days. It was really very difficult in those days to bring material around. It wasn't instant. And
Right.
things had to be printed.
That's
And
true.
then they had to be brought. And then they had to have workshops about how to use the material.
Right.
Iba, hindi gaya ngayon. With the computers the way they are, the cell phones the way they are, there's so much faster communications.
Okay. I'll show you a
So,
very important thing.
what do you have there?
Based on the communication aspect, the involvement of the overseas Filipino was so active that they even created the whole book, each country of the world, how Filipinos celebrated. No? Tapos walang pinalampas yan kasi even the left the progressive groups, they had their own
Are
space.
there. They're
Diba?
there.
Yun yung nakakatuwa doon. And of course, I thought this one is another from the US to New York chapter.
Wow.
They created the Centennial Reporter. They pretended that they reported
Ang
in
galing.
newspaper events from 100 years until that time.
Ang galing.
How do you do? I mean, these are migrant Filipinos. Diba?
Yes.
So again, we also have the Centennial in the barrios and the
Yes.
joint PHA. Of course, magkaaway dati ito. PHA, PNHS, pero nagkasama sila, ano? Sa mga conferences, since the Centennial goes to the barrios and all of these things. And this one is important for me. Kasi nagkaroon ng National Centennial Commission Women's Sector
Ah,
in which they discussed about women in history. So, I mean, that is talagang stimulus yung commemoration.
yes.
Ginawang stimulus for a more inclusive discussion of history.
Yes. That's the goal. I mean, that's why we have events. The events are like, the events are there to jolt us. You know, they're there to push us a little bit more, to remind us, and really to jolt us into realizing what's good, what's bad, what's not enough, what can be improved. And the events also help create networks.
Yes.
These networks may not have existed before the event,
Right.
which was the case with us. But the networks continued even after the celebration.
That's
So I think the awareness, I'm not surprised. I am really not surprised by those findings. I think if we were going to do it today, and we would have a different, of course, it would be different because the media are different, but we would have a different strategy to bring
Yeah.
it down to every person. Now it can be, see, before it could not be person to person. Eh ngayon, na meron na tayong mobile phone,
Mm.
somebody can talk to you and you really feel that this person is talking to me. The
And ma'am,
intimacy.
this is what happened. The closest, of course, that we can, compare the Centennial was the Quincentennial,
Yes.
in which the Quincentennial goes to your home because of the webinars.
Yes.
Diba? Although, ito naman yung, of course, the honest assessment. I was part of the Quincentennial as a private, kumbaga, cultural worker. And I love the Quincentennial and I wanted the opportunity to talk about history. Pero, despite the fact that we have all the modern technologies, I think mas nag-click pa rin yung Centennial eh. Because the Centennial was easier to market. No?
Yes.
Again, you have all the wala naman ng NQC no power na that you had in which nag-initiate yung mga nasa public tawag dito yung nasa PR, nasa advertising to be part of it, 'di ba? Wala yan ng NQC. Ang NQC si Ian Alfonso is the one man person in the in the Facebook.
Oh, precious. Ian is precious, I tell you.
Correct. So, yun yung kaibahan and talagang it would have been kasi yun din yung nagtataka ko mama. Nasagot talaga yung tanong ko sa isip ko. Why was it that a lot of the products, a lot of the industries were like, even if you look at a magazine from the 90s, they even show the logo of the Centennial in their ads.
Oh,
And
yes.
have ads supporting the
Yes.
Centennial na parang wow, parang how are they able to convince people? And now we have the answer, no? Na meron kayo because you came from the advertising world
Advertising, broadcasting. So,
and
and media, writer.
media.
Siyempre, yeah, media tayo, media-based. Plus, ang kaswertehan natin was our friends were with the Advertising Foundation. And their patriotism was awakened. And they really believed, because they really knew the value of broadcasting media.
Mm.
And they wanted it to be put towards values education.
Ma'am, my question now is, it's 9:57 in our, and I don't know how much time can we still have. I have to ask you so that I will not go over time because I just have a few questions. Ilan ba gusto niyo, ma'am? Pwede
Oh,
pa ba tayo?
tanungin mo na kasi at my age, you never know.
Sige, good. Of course, I will not keep you for so long, pero I want to go about the commission, the work as a part of the commission. Were you part of the commission as part of the Philippine Centennial Foundation?
Yes.
So, kayo yung
Ah,
tatlo.
Yeah, ang nangyari kasi was some of us were appointed. Private sector kami, but then we were appointed by the president to sit on the presidential commission. So our work now had to be as part of the government commission and not as private sector. So in my case, I said, because we're all friends. You have to understand, we all know each other, and we're all friends with the president. So I mean, it's another story, when you can speak frankly, honestly. And I said, what? And they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, me? I said, I would like my advocacies to be successful. But I'm not going to be the one to do the Philippine National Museum. Now, because that needs a fundraiser.
Right.
That has to be on its own. You have to get somebody who knows how to fundraise and let that person handle the whole thing and have full faith in that person. Let that person take it off. Take it, do it. And I said, this is the issue. And I brought this up. I said, the National Museum is going to need a lot of money.
Right.
A lot. Now, we cannot have the National Museum group going to private sector and asking for a lot of money, and then the rest of us with other programs also going to private sector to ask them for money. I said, it's not going to work. I said, can we maybe work out a solution where all the private money really is prioritized for the National Museum and the rest of us will work with some other source of funding? Okay. Now, this is, so then they said, well, what programs me personally? And I said, I'm concerned with only the following. I said, if you say we only have a little money, I mean, I'm very frugal, no? So I said, I'm very realistic. And I know that we only have so much time. So I said, what can we do within that time? No? So sabi ko, kailangan talagang they must look spectacular for today. Yung Kalamba ni Rizal,
Yes.
yung Fort Santiago,
Yes.
at saka yung Dapitan,
Right.
tapos yung Kawit at yung Malolos. Sabi ko, maski yung 5 lang na yan, ang ayusin natin na talagang as best as we can. In other words, put in all the curatorial, all the contemporary curatorial, all the good things we know, like put in the videos, put in the recordings, put in the holograms.
Right.
Yung maraming effect, kasi wala yan noon. Wala yan talaga. Ayusin yung mga, what do you call it, the specimens. Nasisira yung specimen.
I will now describe to you. I will now describe to the audience Fort Santiago in 1994 when I first looked at it. Rizal Shrine. It's really like there's a chair of Rizal and there are furniture of Rizal's everywhere, not connected to his life, but Rizal furniture. All of that. It's again maximalist. There's no narrative, and after this, during the Centennial, nag-iba yan. Because I think Marian Pastoroses was consulted. Yeah. Siya ang nag-ano doon. And nagkaroon ng flow.
Yes.
Nagkaroon ng narrative. So, nahati din yung narrative sa the focus of Rizal's birthplace is his youth, not everything. The focus of the Dapitan is not everything, but just Dapitan. And the focus of Fort Santiago is his his works, and his death.
Yes.
Diba? Tapos naalala nyo, there was just in the second floor, there's this big room, just a big room where you can contemplate. Because Adios Patria Adorada is adorning the walls. And even if you cannot understand Spanish, you press the button there, and Jose Rizal, Pen Medina, I think, will talk, will speak, whatever, English, Spanish, or Tagalog, di mi ultimo Dios. And nakafocus doon sa merong isang escaparate doon where you have the facsimile of the Mi Ultimo Dios and the replica of the alcohol stove.
Noli.
Diba? So, yun, wow. That is like, wow, nung una kong napasok. When I was already in high school. So, ito pala yung nagawa ng Centennial. No? And of course, I also visited the other museums. Gumanda. Naging minimalist. Nagkaroon ng kwento. Kasi again, when you have this, less is more. The more display, actually, the more you get lost.
Well, if I may add, no. So what were some of what did we do? Well, President Ramos said, I will fund from my personal funds, from the presidential funds, those 5 sites.
Wow.
And so he said, there's a budget, kasi 5 sites lang. And then let's try to help get the local government budgets to help fund the trail.
Centennial Trail.
Yung
Yeah.
Centennial
Martes
Freedom Trail. Oo, parang ganyan, no? And then, to make it even more of a statement, and I'm glad you've brought this up, I wanted to use only Filipino curators for the 5 sites.
Right.
The National Museum, we used an international museum design company and museum styling and educational company, which I was familiar with, and we used them again, by the way, when we set up the new Museum of Natural History. It was the same. It was the same group. Okay, so this was the international organization. I mean, this international, well-known curatorial group. Okay, but for the 5 sites, I wanted it first to be conceptualized in the national language, and then adopted into English. Not conceptualized in English and adopted into the national language. So all the keywords, the key phrases are all in the national language. And at the time, we had very few curators who were trained, okay?
Right.
But we used them. So for Calamba, we asked Cora Alvina, who at the time was, I think, was she already with the National? No, she was still with the Metropolitan Museum, I think. She was not yet head of the National Museum, but Cora had the skills. And then Sandra Castro Baker, she was still Sandy Castro, she did Kawit. And she was perfect for Kawit because there was a lot of textile that needed to be researched.
Right.
And she is a textile expert, among other things. She's one of our top textile experts. And she knows conservation of textiles, you see.
Right.
Because what we did, okay, then the third person was Marian Roses, Pastor Roses, who had a group called Tao. She had incorporated Tao. And so we asked Marian to do both Dapitan and Fort Santiago. Now remember that 5, no style was the same. Intentionally. Intentionally. And Fort Santiago, after discussions, we said, all right, let's make it, like you said, a very a very minimalist, uncluttered. We wanted it to be like more like a sacred space,
Yes. A shrine.
a
It's
shrine,
the Vizal shrine, di ba?
a shrine more than a museum. So
Right.
when you arrived in the museum, there was at the time a video, and the
Yes.
video told you about Rizal's life, etc., etc., etc. And then you went into the shrine. Of course, eventually, what happened was the video needed to be fixed. The machines needed to be fixed, and there was a difficulty getting budgets. This was after the Centennial. I understand that there was difficulty in trying to get the budgets to either fix or replace the equipment. Because when you design for 10 years. You
Right.
know that by the 5th year, there will have to be major maintenance. But the storyline, the viewpoints can hold for 10 years, after which you need to redo the whole thing. Okay, that's really how it goes. A new
And
generation.
I think nirespeto yan ng NHCP.
Yeah.
Kasi more than 10 years yung itinagal nung
Oo.
narrative.
Oh. See, so then Marian also did the Pitan, and unfortunately,
Oh, that was controversial.
we weren't able to finish it. We didn't
Oo.
finish it.
So you didn't finish it, and a lot of people didn't get the concept because you have to transform again, supposedly, the Pitan into how it was during Rizal's time, which is hindi siya park. Which is you there's a walkway, di ba? And everything is green and all of that, which of course a lot of people didn't get.
Right. See, because we were so concerned about the natural environment. That was one.
Right.
And we wanted to have the museum proper where that nice building is. They have that nice museum building. But the place where Rizal lived, we wanted it, the storyline there kasi siya was, there was even supposed to be this banca near the shore. So parang Rizal, and then, how was it? Anyway, the way it was styled, if it had been finished,
Right.
is that umalis lang si Rizal sandali, o kung hindi, bumalik si Rizal sandali. But you were supposed to be able to see that he really lived there. And that was not all. That was the only international site. Na-present yan, ha? That whole, the whole concept, the design, everything was presented to an international museum conference. It was applauded. So we really felt bad that we weren't able to proceed with it. And it was international in the sense that there, the signage was in, I think, all the 5 languages or 6 languages that Rizal was writing in while he was in exile. So the signs were in all those languages, and the font that is used on the metal signs, outdoor metal signs that did get delivered, they're there. I haven't been to the Pitan for a long time. I'd like to see it, but it is a Rizal font.
That approximates the handwriting of Jose Rizal.
No, the characteristics of Rizal's handwriting were given to a professional group that then made a font based on those characteristics. So it's a Rizal font. And it's NHCP or NHI at the time that owns all of that. It's not Tao that owns it. All of that's owned by the government. All of that's owned by NHI. So that site, I don't know, as I said, what it's like now, and they probably had to take a different curatorial approach because it was not well understood by the people. But I do still believe in the curatorial design and the approach. And I sincerely, yeah.
The problem was, yun nga, kasi I remember vividly the Magandang Gabi Bayan special. where it was criticized. Ang nangyari dyan ay because, ang sabi nga, the board, kasi di ba may mga pathways nga, and it wasn't finished. And now you are telling me na hindi talaga siya natapos because naabutan ng panahon. Yun pala yun.
Yes. There were some difficulties. And there was also a change of government.
Right. Exactly.
So that's part of the reason that the plan didn't continue because of the change of local government at the time. But that was the major reason why it didn't get finished, was because of the change in the local government. So I'm hoping that when I go there, make it a point to try and get there, that whatever be the new narrative and the new styling, that it will make us proud that while Rizal was there, he became a social worker.
Yeah.
While he was there, he tried very hard not to lose his ability in all those languages. And I felt so sad when he told, I think it was Blumentritt, and he said, I'm having such a hard time remembering. I can't remember the foreign word that I'm trying to say, And I hope that comes across, because I always say that one of the most precious lines of Rizal is that genius knows no country.
Right.
Remember that from the toast, right, that he gave for Luna and Hidalgo. And that particular site shows how you create or how you develop your genius.
Genius, yes. That's for me, that's the most important part of Rizal's life, and more than anything else.
Exactly.
Was the pitan.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. 100%, Shao. So I'm curious. I'm curious to be able to enjoy.
Well, in all fairness,
the new museum.
In all fairness, it might have deviated from the concept that it was.
That's
in the
okay.
But what I felt the first time I went to the Pitan, it's the only time I went to the Pitan, was that is the only place where you're really going to feel Rizal's presence.
It's true.
For whatever reason, I've always been I love Fort Santiago, I love Calamba, but for some strange reason, the Pitan nandun pa rin yung charm of the old life.
Yes.
That's why it's very good to visit. Anyone who loves Jose Rizal and loves our country should visit the Pitan at least once in their lifetime.
Agree with you. At least once in your lifetime. And when you go, be prepared. I mean, like, ang dami naman online. Ang dami naman online, di ba? Mababasa. And then you can find out his life, how he taught the children there, how he became a community worker, how he planted all those trees, and how he went back to farming.
So, yan mga kaibigan, yan po ang unang bahagi pa lamang ng ating interview kay Ma'am Felice Prudente Santa Maria. Hindi ko akalain na aabot po ng 2 oras yung interview namin. Meron pa tayong 48 minutes. No? So, ibig sabihin, puputulin na po natin. And maybe, kaya may scheduled guest na po tayo in the next month. No? Baka mausog yung next showing ng part 2 nitong kay Ma'am Felice Prudente Santa Maria. Pero ipapalabas po natin ito. At sana po nag-enjoy kayo. At gusto kong batiin yung mga taong kasama natin na nanonood ngayon sa atin. Asa na para mabati natin yung mga nanonood ngayon sa atin. Ayan. Sige. So ang dami nating nanood kanina. We started with around 60 watchers, no? So magandang gabi po Ma'am Felice. Mula kay Eufemio Agbayani III, Angel May Mesagrande, yan, AL Sir from Negros Occidental, Maria Teresa Cabig, Sheila Marie from Pontevedra Capiz, Yohol Elliot, Sabaan from Lugait, Misamis Oriental, Chris Dickven, Cabas Pinkian, and sabi ni Eufemio Agbayani III, it's a little bit unfortunate that the 125th isn't as big as the 100. Maybe because the 125 was not seen as a milestone number anyway. But reviewing how we commemorated will be helpful when we reach 150. Thank you, Eufemio Agbayani, Yufi Agbayani. And thank you for attending my secret birthday, surprise birthday, yes, last night. I remember, sabi ni Eufemio, the late Bob Cuti, remarking how he thought there were way too few quincentennial merchandise compared to his experience in British Jubilees. That's true. The Centennial logo's value is in how it was not forced into people. Unlike a certain logo brand that is being promoted na, Yufi, huwag tayo mag-away, Chos. Huwag tayo mag-away, Chos. Okay, punta natin yung, sandali punta natin yung mga iba pang, kanina, yung mga bumati pa kanina. Oo. Si Alexander Javier, so, yan, nabanggit na sila si Pastor Blue Jeans Parin, Jericho Tamundong, Ainsel, ayan, Ainsel, Erickson Pacaira Dublas from NHCP Mariano Ponce, tama? Belated happy birthday, Dr. Xiao Chua, thank you po. Adrenaline Banao, watching from Negros Occidental. Email Doris Aragon, watching from Sagada Mountain Province. Imelda Davis Fabro, watching from Aldersgate College, Solano, Nueva Vizcaya. Jason Carlos, hello. Ayan. Salamat din from, yan, okay, mukhang, okay tayo. Juan Carlos from Marikina City. Yun. And sino pa ba? Sige, abol-abol po ang inyong mga comments. No? It's 8:59 na po, no? So, siguro doon natin puputulin yung ating broadcast at tuloy-tuloy po ang tutuloy natin in some other time yung ating ito po yung ginawa ko actually interview because I have a requirement for my very last PhD penalty course, no? Dahil nga matatapos na tayo sa ating PhD at sinabit natin ito broadcasting during the Philippine Centennial under Dr. Elizabeth Enriquez, no? And kinuha ko yung background ng Philippines kasi talagang ang grand project na gusto ko talagang gawin ay sumulat about the Philippine Centennial. Any other people can do it. Wala ko akong control at ayoko ng turfing eh. So I'll write my piece and you can write your piece. Wala tayong magagawa. Ang daming interested sa mga commemorations. But since I was a young professor, talagang gusto ko talagang isulat itong Philippine Centennial. So I'll probably write a few aspects about it and give also a presentation soon. So yan, thank you Ma'am Felice Prudente Sta, Commissioner of the National Centennial Commission from 1992 to 1998. Ayan, at marami pa tayo, siya ay food historian, siya ay book author, at marami siyang mga art books o yung tinatawag nila noon na coffee table books. Thank you Ma'am Felice. And we will catch the rest of your story in another episode. So again, nakita naman natin yung pinaka-main point na the National Centennial, the Philippine Centennial, in 1998, and the run-up to it, is what made history better appreciated and change a lot of our misconceptions about our ancestors and improve the teaching and improve the materials and made history more inclusive. Pantayong pananaw ay sinilang sa panahon ng lead up to the National Centennial. So, yung interest ng tao, yung pagiging marubdob ng tao sa kasaysayan ay nagkakaroon ng titis, spark kapag nagkakaroon ng mga commemoration. So, I hope that the 125th, ongoing 125th year of an anniversary of Philippine independence and nationhood ay siguro mabuhay pa kahit na natapos na yung yung ating marami pa naman yan hanggang 125th ng Philippine-American War ay kasama dyan. So magtatagal pa ng ilang taon yan. But let's see. Let's see. So thank you again. Thank you, Yufi. Thank you, Ian Alfonso, for watching my interview with Ma'am Felice. At I'm sure na marami kayong makukuha na data dun sa gusto niyo ring mga gawin at sa pag-alala sa Sentenaryo. No? So, ayun. Okay. So, again, muli, Jessa, maraming salamat sa iyong pagsama sa akin. Ako po si Xiao Chua na nagsasabing ang kasaysayan ay kaysaya. At sana po ay maging makasaysayan ang inyong mga paggunita. Ako, 40th year ko. Diba? January. Naging masaya po ito. Walang hanggang pasasalamat sa inyo. Muli, ako po si Xiao Chua. Ang kasaysayan ay kaysaya.
Sa puso't isip laging kukupkupin mga gunitang sa atin nakarating. Bayan pukawin sa diwa't damdamin. Pangarap ng kahapoy ating tuparin. Marami pang bagay ang dapat tuntunin. Mga aral ng nakalipas ay susulatin. Malayong kahapoy sisikapin pang libutin. Nalalaman ay atin pang pauunlarin. Salang sa kaibig-ibig mong layunin. Padayon sa iyong pagiging tinig ng kahapong nagnanais na marinig ng ngayon at ng bukas.